Hey, everybody. Welcome to the Jaye and Thomas Podcast. This is episode 4. Title of this one's going to be Ecuador and Why. So, first things first, Dad, how you doing?
I'm doing very well. Thank you. Thanks for asking. Doing very
Excellent.
well. It's been
Okay.
cloudy here the last couple of days down in here in South America, but
We'll make
as
sure
opposed to
to.
sunshiny every day.
So, we wanted to
There
start
you
off
go.
today with asking you a question. We didn't get to it last time, but let me ask. So, you are at this point an expat. Can you explain kind of what that is? And this is, of course, is based on retirement, and then you're in Playas, Ecuador, like we talked about in our first episode. So, what is an expat, and why leave the country and retire to Ecuador?
Well, an expat is an expatriate. That's the title they give the people here in country in Ecuador. Um, why I came down here, um, it's a long story, but the Cliff Notes version is I met a guy probably back in '88 or '89 from New Jersey, and we roomed together training at Cracker Barrel restaurants in Lebanon, Tennessee, and we were both training to be managers, and it was kind of crazy because you had your southern guy, your redneck, and then you got your guy from New Jersey, New Jersey, New York, up in that area. So he called me redneck, and I called him meatball. So um, we stayed in a hotel room together every day or every night after training and working, and we come back to the hotel, dragging, and over the we stayed in 10 weeks of training. We stayed in touch with each other throughout the years. So it's been 32, 33 years we've kind of stayed in touch. Well, uh, about 10 years ago, he went into the laundry business and he had two laundromats, bundle service laundromats in New Jersey in Seagirt, and they're right on the coast. Well, Hurricane Sandy came in and just wiped him out, wiped his businesses out.
Oh, wow.
Um, yeah. So he didn't have a job, and one of the ladies that worked with him was Ecuadorian. So she said, "Well, no job, nowhere to go, nothing to do." She
Sure.
said, "Why don't you come visit? I'm going to visit my family. Why don't you come visit?" So he said, "Okay." So he came down to visit to the little town of Playas in Ecuador, and he enjoyed it. So he went back home and he made plans to come back and visit again. And I don't remember how many times he came back and forth uh, down here, but he sat one day out on the street corner and said, "Is this where I want to spend the rest of my life? Overlooking the Pacific Ocean. It's a tough gig at 80 degrees every day and 70 every night. Yeah,
That sounds
yeah,
like it.
and yeah, and gas is $1 a gallon. So yeah, a loaf of bread's like $1. Um, and so he decided to stay here. So we stayed in touch with each other. And one day, we got to email him back and forth. And he said, "Why don't you come down to visit?" So I made 5 trips down here over the last 3 years. And I knew that my full retirement age was going to come. My full retirement age was 66.
Lucky you.
And so, yeah, thanks. And so I didn't do a lot of good financial planning early on in my life. So when I retired, when I hit Social Security, I started drawing my full Social Security, but I kept
Mm,
working so I could get some money in the bank. So on my trips back and forth, I made 5 different trips down here and planned for like the last 3 years to retire here because I came
there you
down
go.
here. I liked it. The weather, the people, they're all real nice and friendly down here. It's a very inexpensive place to live if you don't have a lot of money. Uh, so Bob was a lot of the reason that I came down here because he knew how to speak Spanish. He learned while in the 8 years he's been here, he's learned how to speak Spanish, and he had a connection. So it made it the transition made it very easy,
He's been down there for eight
helping
years.
us.
Holy smokes.
Yeah, he'd been down here 8 years.
Wow.
Um, that Bob was the first reason. The second reason was climate.
Mm-hmm.
The climate down here. I mean, the sun rises every day about 6:15, and it sets every night about 6:15.
Hmm.
That's 365 days a year.
Yeah, just about.
Uh,
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, they don't have any seasons down here. Now, we're supposedly in the winter season. They call it seasons, but there's not really, you don't have a drastic change like you do in the States, in Tennessee. It doesn't go from, in October where it starts to get down into the 50s and then 40s, and next thing you know, it's 30s in November, December. Here, the low will be like 65.
So you're
And
saying
that's
you don't
considered,
like a whole lot of excitement in your life without having any seasons. It's all just kind of.
yeah, it's the same all the time. I mean, your daylight's the same every day. I mean, every day it's the same.
Right.
It's on the same time zone as Tennessee,
Yeah, it's
Central Time Zone.
Central Time Zone, but they don't have daylight savings, right?
No,
Because
no, it
Ben
stays the
Franklin
same all the
wasn't
time.
wasn't down in
Yeah,
Ecuador at the time he was
yeah. But
coming up with that sort of stuff. So
Charles Darwin was, and part of his arch over the Galapagos Islands caved in
I saw
2 or
that.
3 days ago. Yeah. So
That's pretty intense. But then again, Charles Darwin also like was kind of incestual from what I heard.
yeah,
So
they
survival
also
of the
use the
fittest.
American dollar down here, which
Yeah.
that was a huge thing for me, as not losing any money in the currency exchange.
Sure.
My Social Security would go farther. That was the number 3 was the
Right.
dollar value, and using the American dollar, my Social Security would go farther because everything was so so inexpensive to live here, and
Okay.
and health reasons. Pat has asthma and hasn't picked up her inhaler since she got here
What about my asthma? I'll give you asthma.
because it's just clean, fresh. It's clean, fresh air with an ocean
I was
breeze.
like, you mean clean, salty, dusty,
No,
dirt road air?
there's not as many people here,
That's fair.
so there's not as much pollution.
Yeah.
Think about it.
What was it?
Didn't you say there were
17.7 million?
million?
Yeah, as opposed to like in China where there's like 1.5 billion, and then in the United
Yeah.
States 330 million.
Yeah. So you've got about 35,000 people here.
Does that imply us
Maybe
specifically?
maybe 40 just in Playas. Yeah. So you're talking about the size of a small town in Tennessee.
Yeah. Yeah.
So you don't have that pollution and the nastiness in the air that you have other places. So
I'll make
that's a big
sure.
part of it.
Yeah, I'll
That's a
make
big
sure
part of
to,
it.
to bring with me air testing kits and water pH and all that
Please
stuff
do.
when I come down.
Yes. Yes.
But you can't drink the
Absolutely
drinking
do.
water, right? Or you can't drink the
No,
water out
can't
of the
drink
tap.
the water out of the faucet. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I don't know why, but they just say don't drink the water. It looks okay to me.
Well,
But
remind me to
I
bring
don't
you a Brita when I come down there.
know. Okay. Okay.
We'll get you squared away.
So that's basically why, because, I drove over the road. I drove 3,000 miles a week for the
Jeez.
last 16, 17 years.
Yeah.
And I just, that was it. When it came time, it's like, we started downsizing and downsizing and downsizing. And I said, let's go. Let's go. And that's what we did. So
Well,
we came down here in the middle of April, and it's like a vacation that never ends. You're
That's
on
fair.
the beach every day if you want to be, or you just sit out on the porch and watch the ocean bang against the beach, and there you go.
well, I was going to
So
say, do you think that people are being nice or what you perceive as nice to you because either one, you have money, I mean, pretty decent money compared to folks down there. It is still a third world
absolutely.
country, right? But
Oh, absolutely. Yes.
so are they, does it appear as though they're nice because A, you got them buns, and their anacondas want, or is it because you don't know what they're saying all the time? So if they're complaining, you don't get it. Does that make sense? Like you just
Yeah,
literally
I
wouldn't
understand
understand
what
them.
you're saying.
So
There's a huge respect here for the elderly. There's just a huge respect for the elderly, and even a greater respect for, I don't want to say handicapped elderly, but older people that are not as physically in tune to everything.
sure.
Sometimes I have trouble walking for a long time because of recent health issues.
Hmm.
But the people here are very respectful of elderly people. It's family, and that's what it's all about down here is family. So I don't think they respect us because, we've got money or this or that. I think they respect us because they I'm old and I'm slow and I don't have anywhere to go.
So
So,
that's fair. Now, let me.
well, I'll give you an example.
Sure.
We went into the big city the other day. I call the big city because we live about 10 miles outside of downtown. We
Oh,
went
yeah.
into downtown to a bank the other day,
Mm-hmm.
and they were lined all the way out onto the street at this bank. And I walked up there and I was standing in line with the rest of them. And the security guard came out there and got me and took me right in the door and put me in the I guess the old folks line or the disabled line or whatever. And then when I stood there for a few minutes, then he came over and got me and took me to the front of the line and put me in front of the next teller.
Okay.
And they did that with all elderly people. And it was and I mean my bank transaction took about 45 seconds because we had everything already
You're ready to
pre-done,
go.
all the
Sure.
forms filled out,
Right.
and everything. And so it wasn't like we didn't, we weren't able to, not write anything or not be able to do anything or spend 10 minutes, holding everybody up. It was bang, bang, and we were back out the door. And I thank the guy, not that he understood me, but I thank the man anyway for putting me in there. So that's
It's
just,
gracias,
it's one of
señor.
those things. Yeah, it's just one of those things. Yeah, exactly.
So
Gracias.
that
Absolutely.
would kind of lead me to believe, and let me pose something to you here real quick. They have a culture of respecting the elderly.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So, based on our past conversation about generational divides and gaps and whatnot, why do you think that we don't have one in America? Because it does seem as though there are several other countries or cultures that I've seen, in Asia, maybe South America, a few others where it does seem, air quotes, that the elderly are less of a burden and more of an entity. In this case, I'm not objectifying people, but
Right.
more of
Right.
a subgroup of folks to be respected, revered, and stuff like that. Like where's the disconnect there, and why? And I'll chuckle about this. You might not appreciate it as much as me, but why didn't you teach us to respect our elders more, man?
Come on, man.
Did not we not teach you to respect your elders?
Well, now there's a difference between me and, of course, my constituents and younger, but
Okay. That's where it was lost. Is the parenting. The parenting, I think, the parenting lost the teaching at home of a whole lot of stuff.
okay,
We could go on all night about that,
sure,
but I think a lot of it is it starts at home. It starts at home, and the families have gotten so spread out now that they don't go to grandma's house every Sunday and have dinner like we did after church
I don't remember us doing that a whole lot.
when I was growing up. When I was
Oh,
growing up,
oh.
I was growing up.
Well, I don't remember going to Mars' house super often.
Okay.
And also right now, it doesn't seem as though you want to respect your elder very much. Now, granted, she is a very wholesome 91 or 92 as of this month,
92.
but
Yeah.
it sounds like you're running out of patience too.
Well, you want to take care of she and I both, or
I will. Hey, I offered you to come over here and stay, so you just have to, handle your business because
yeah,
I'll be your Doug.
yeah. Okay.
So that's it. Well, actually, no. I've been told I'm a terrible nurse, but then again, I think I know where I learned that from. So
Well, wait, you have no bedside manner, and your mother and your sister are nurses, and you have no bedside manner?
yeah, but that's not where I learned my bedside manner from.
Oh, okay.
So that kind of leads to kind of bedside manner, nursing, and whatnot. That kind of leads us into our proverbial a written topic, which is going to be vaccinations. So you posed a question to me, vaccinations, how do I feel? I'm assuming you mean about just vaccines in general or the COVID vaccine, which you can explain to me in a second. And then returning to the office. Do you want to elaborate a little bit on what you
Well,
mean by vaccine specifically?
you did the vaccine. We went over the vaccines the last time
Right,
about
right.
what all was involved. You got your second shot.
Yep.
Okay.
Ooh.
So you're good.
Team Pfizer, all the way. We are not
Yeah,
just Viagra.
You probably don't remember years ago when they used to wear the fedora hats, and the guy would have press on a card stuck in
Sure.
his hat, and that's
Yeah.
how they
Yeah,
knew
yeah,
who
yeah.
the reporters were
Yeah.
and stuff. So, if I get a hat and put my vaccine card in there, is that going to let me? Now, my question is, how are you going to feel if you're vaccinated and your boss is not, or his boss is not? And how are you going to know if they are or they not? Or are you going to take their word for it? Or how are you going to feel with Cindy Lou that sits beside you in the office?
Because Cindy Lou told me she's vaccinated. So that's how I'll know. Now, for my bosses, here's the thing. If they are, they aren't. I don't care because I can
Okay.
only control one person and one reality, right?
Okay.
And that's mine. So
Okay.
if they are, they're not. Luckily, I am. And of course, I don't look like I've missed many meals, but I'm not unhealthy other than, statistically, you need to lose a few pounds. So, because I've, gotten my
Don't we all?
checkups. Well,
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
well, I don't worry if somebody is or isn't vaccinated, is or isn't wearing a mask, because for one, I don't have any say or control over them. And
Right.
it's something that, hilariously enough, you mentioned Cindy Lou. That's funny that you mentioned that. Cindy said, "I
Oh,
luckily."
I forgot that was her name. I was just using that as a.
Well, you nailed the proverbial. You nailed it right on the head there.
Okay.
She said that I have a pretty good amount of wisdom when it comes to patience and being able to focus my energy on things that are positive or that at least I can control, right? So
Okay.
if, Gregory, Tommy, Harry, Chris, blah, 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 and we go up the chain, I don't care if they're vaccinated or not. That's not going to affect me. And luckily, since I am pretty healthy and I am vaccinated, it shouldn't matter whether or not they are or aren't.
Okay.
Now, them utilizing this to get us back into the office
Mm-hmm.
or asking us, hey, are you guys vaccinated? Which I think is kind of they said
See,
you don't.
they're not supposed to be able to do that.
Correct.
According
And they said, yeah, I agree. And I was not a fan, but they said it was voluntary and that's no problem. However, I feel like it was, and of course, it's just me thinking this. These are just my opinions and thoughts and feelings or
Okay.
whatever. So, not condoning any of this to anybody else or anything like that. But it does seem slightly that they utilized the fact that if they had enough yays instead of nays in terms of your vaccine plans or your current status of vaccine, because some people were, based on age, they were able to get it very quickly,
Right.
they utilize that as a metric for saying, hey, well, now you all can come back to work because enough of you are, air quotes, safe enough to come back.
Okay.
Full steam ahead. Where that seems a little bit nefarious to me, and I actually will have a document that I'm working on this week to send to the powers that be with those thoughts and feelings. But it's a scenario where I'm gonna be like my boss told me, the Marine. I'm gonna be a good corporal, right? Because that's what my rank
Okay.
would be if I was in a platoon, in a squad, etc. I'm gonna be a good little non-commissioned officer E4 rank of corporal. and then, do my business and make sure that the commands of the commanding officers and the powers that be are executed to the best ability that I can try to make them, right?
Okay.
So it's something where I did have to have a conversation with myself. Some people would call that prayer, some people call it meditation, whatever you want to call it. That was like, okay, I have to make sure that I can do what I need to do for my job. That one keeps people safe and happy, but is also for the good of the group based on the orders I receive. So
Okay.
I have to I had to figure that out. And I could go on and be the guy who is going to air quotes, fight the power and cause a ruckus and stuff. But that's not what people need. People need a leader, need somebody they can count on, confide in, know they will handle their business. And that's what I'm going to be. So that kind of leads into the vaccines, whomever isn't, that's your choice. I'm not going to judge you whether or not you are or aren't, whether or not you mask, don't mask. There's a, my buddy keeps asking me whenever we have the conversation about vaccines and stuff. It's like, how many record or documented cases of polio nowadays? How much of the Spanish flu is around, or how much blah blah blah, and name whatever kind of vaccines you have, mumps or measles or whatever. And it was like, well, there's not that many. So if you want to get vaccine, great. If not, that's your choice. We're all created equally, air quotes, and it is what it is. There are reasons for,
Okay.
there are reasons on both sides, and I'm not smart enough or holy thou art enough to judge those people. That's
Have they
that
got a
judgment's
target
gonna,
date for you going back to work?
August 25th. I'm sorry, that's the relative date, but it's all based on, since we're a private company, that when the owners want us to do that sort of thing, because it's all
Okay.
coming, when I say from on high, it literally the highest it could be, because they could shut their doors tomorrow and be like, okay, we don't have a whole lot of say
Have a
over
nice
that.
day.
Yeah, they're like, okay, peace out.
I
We
got
we made our money. We made plans that would set us up for either potential more problems, and they held back enough money that they need to survive very comfortably and maybe their next generation, and then they move on. That's totally could happen. They could sell us tomorrow and not even blink twice. I mean, that's totally up to them because it's their company, right? We're not publicly
you.
traded. We're
Right.
not anything like that. So they're going to do
I
what they're
got
going to
you.
do, man.
Right. Right. I got you. Okay.
But yeah, that's
Good.
kind of how that is, man. What do you feel about vaccines since they're passing them around down there? You said last week you weren't, or you didn't want to get one.
I, I don't see getting one because it's not going to change anything. I mean, it's literally not going to change anything that I do or any place that I go, or it's not going to have an effect on me.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, Talking to a lady today from Canada, her husband had gotten his second shot, and he
Okay.
was in pretty rough shape for about 24 hours, pretty ugly.
Yeah. Yeah.
But she said now he's fine. So I said okay, but I don't see me getting it.
That's fair.
I just don't. Yeah.
Well, and luckily, we can't judge you or do anything about it. So there you go.
Right. I did say today that I'm not going to wear the mask
Okay.
unless I'm in like a bus or a taxi, but outside, standing outside or walking outside, you're not ever going to catch me with one on. And they're all masked up down here. I mean, everybody, outside, inside, doesn't matter where you are. I've seen them on the beach with them. And I'm like, that's carrying it a little far, but okay. Like you said, not judging. Do what you do, you, and I'll do me.
Right.
So,
Right. And
you know,
I mean, until you're asked to do something like that, or
correct.
somebody
That's right.
encroaches into your space or whatever, or your headspace and
That's
stuff,
correct.
and it makes you, that's totally fine. And that's up to you. Now, we're not going to be offended when somebody says, oh, you don't want to mask up. That means you can leave. you know.
Okay, that's fine.
And that's something where I'm not sure, but have you ever been kicked out of a place or asked to leave somewhere?
Oh, absolutely. More than one. more, more than once.
So it was a scenario that I'm totally down with people asking, hey, can you leave? Because I've been kicked out of places before as well. It wasn't for
Right.
being rowdy or anything like that, but it was a place, and I just didn't look sharp enough to be in there. It was a country club, right? And I wasn't dressed appropriately because I was dressed kind of like I am now. And they asked if I was a member, and I said no. And then they said, okay, well, cool, you can't be here. And I'm like, hey, totally fine. That's up to you guys. No problem whatsoever.
Okay.
The scenario that people can say, hey, you can't be here. Okay. I mean,
Okay.
I would say it's a free country, but I don't know what it is down in Ecuador, so I can't tell you. But up here, hey, if you don't want to serve me, I'm down. I can go spend my money elsewhere. You know, my money's green everywhere, right?
Well, that's the way I am down here. If y'all don't want me to be here, that's cool. But I
Sure.
haven't never been asked to leave anywhere down here.
I
Of
wouldn't
course,
expect so.
I wouldn't know it if they asked me to leave because
They just would come in and be like, andale, 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 you know?
yeah, pointing to the door, and I'll be like, what?
Right. Yeah, it'd be something like that. So that's what it is. I mean, vaccines, if you want to do it, great. If not,
Yeah,
I ain't mad at you.
I'm not big on it, but
And that's totally
I
fine.
stay
Totally
stay
fine.
pretty much to myself down here, so we don't interact with a whole bunch of folks.
I was
So
gonna
it's
say,
all good.
you stay pretty much to yourself until we're podcasting out, to the world there. So
That's right.
that's it.
That's right.
That's how that works.
And thank you for all the new subscribers, all you people out there. You know who you are.
Hey,
do
we
this
most
for
certainly
y'all.
appreciate it. Bring it
We
on.
don't do this. We don't do it for ourselves. Yeah, I wore my soccer shirt that I got from down here. That's got all the advertisements on. It's got the beer advertisement,
You better
Pepsi and the
send
bank
them
and all that. Yeah.
messages in Spanish that said, "Hey, we're representing," like let's
Yeah,
get it going.
yeah. I wouldn't even know what any of them were anyway. But
Well,
I recognize the beer and the Pepsi. That's all I recognize.
so the question is are you going to become a football fan now that you were down in Ecuador? And I was going to say, especially if they commentate like they did with that thing I showed you, where, oh no,
that was
he
hilarious. Yeah, it
he
was hilarious.
sacrificed future generations. He hit him square in the nuts.
Yeah, that's the thing down here is a TV is a luxury. So they've got a huge, probably 10-foot square screen in the food court
Oh, that's where
in the
everyone
mall.
goes, right?
In the mall. So if there's a soccer game and it involves Ecuador, Colombia, Peru, anything that borders Ecuador,
Yeah.
the food court is standing room only. I mean, literally
Good
standing
Lord.
room only with people watching that game because they don't have TVs at home. And the first time I saw that, I thought, this is amazing. I mean, it literally is amazing that they are serious soccer people.
Why do you
Serious
think that
soccer
is?
people. It's competitive, and a lot of it's all they have. It's just like, I guess, our football or our baseball.
You mean
but
it's all they
a
have in terms of
national-
a sport? You mean?
in sport, yeah, it's sporting. That's all I've seen. That's all I've seen down here is soccer. I hadn't seen anything else. Nobody's,
I was gonna say, I
nobody's
don't
seen
think they're playing any
anything else.
baseball, any American football, anything like that.
No, and you will see a bunch of dirt on the side of the road, and then you'll see the most well-groomed green grass
Oh
fenced
yeah.
in,
Oh yeah.
and that'll be a soccer practice field or a soccer field where they've out in the middle of the dirt.
They got their priorities in
Not
order,
good progress.
basically, is what you're saying.
You bet they do. You
That's
bet they
fair.
do.
That is fair. So the next thing that we have on here is, it was kind of a smorgasbord because you asked me and said, "Hey, wait a minute, we got border crisis happening, we got economic problems, kids in schools," which there was the best video today of a kid talking to the school board, but it was also Middle Eastern conflicts. I'm going to hop back to the kids with the school board pretty quickly here because it was hilarious. It was a kid, he was recorded, and I don't like kids being political puppets or anything like that, but it was hilarious when the kid gets up there and says, it annoys my friends and me and my friends when we see the teacher not let us take any drinks of water until we get buckled up in our cars. So like if they're standing outside with their mask on, they have to wait until they get inside the cars before they can do anything. And also, it annoys them when the kids have to wear their mask and the teacher pulls their mask down to gripe at the kids for not having their mask on and stuff. It just it kind of blew my mind that that sort of scenario is happening, and it's framed in such a way to make you think, okay, this is pretty silly, right? The whole scenario of, okay, let the 9-year-old or 8-year-old be left alone because statistically, meh,
Yeah, I understand. We went over that last week. I understand.
Yeah, it is what it is.
That mask deal is a whole lot of bull. I mean, it just. It really is.
So on here, you have Senate and House not taking care of America's business. I'm assuming what you're trying to connect these dots here is the Senate and the House not letting Americans do what Americans do, basically, or not giving them funds or not passing things. Like, what are we talking about here?
I'm not asking them to give them any funds. I'm asking them to come to work every day and do business for the American people.
Okay.
I don't think the Senate. Well, when Joe Schmo says, "Well, I passed Bill HR 654, and that's going to make it okay to pass people on a double yellow line," that's a load of crap, man. These people go in there, they're elected. They're the biggest collective group of morons I've ever seen in my life, and they're elected, and they go in there and they get salaries the rest of their lives. They get money from what are the people, the lobbyists?
Lobbyists, yeah. Super PAC, stuff like that.
Yeah, they're just not taking care of business. How long does it take to take care of business? I mean, you can say, well, I sponsored a bill for this or sponsored. I don't care what you sponsored. Push that thing through or throw it in the trash and move on or do something else. But don't add stuff to it to pay the people back that got you elected. Years ago, there's no respect and there's no honor or loyalty among thieves.
Fair.
Like there used to be.
Like there used to be.
Like there used to be. When there were gangsters, if you crossed one of them, you got two in the back of the head.
Warriors, come out to play.
But
so there were gangs, and you would get shot if you weren't loyal. Is that what's happening, or what you're saying is what went down?
Like, there's no respect, there's no honor, there's no loyalty, and they're not taking care of business. If you didn't take care of business, you were whacked. Are they? People use the old adage of, who do you use for your trash service? We've got a trash service we'd like to provide.
Do you mean
you with.
The mob?
I didn't say that.
But, no, I said we have trash services that you really want to use.
Sanitation services that you
right.
It'd be a shame if your place burned down.
Do you want the mob back, Mr. Darden? Is that what you're saying?
They had more control over people. Why I don't understand, and I don't want to put it out there that if you talk so crazy to an elected official, or an elected official talks so crazy about something that's just completely asinine, why is nothing ever done to them? Did you see where the hot mic and the video recording with audio of the Capitol Police inviting those people in on January the 6th? It was on the news feed today.
Mm-hmm.
They're standing right there saying, this is going to be orderly. We're going to let you talk. We're going to do our thing.
Mm-hmm.
We're going to let you do your thing. Keep this peaceful and orderly. And the guy turned around and told everybody, we're going to get to talk to people. Keep it peaceful and keep it orderly. They said, come on. That's not insurrection. They might have rolled into somebody's office and said, you're fired. You're fired. I put you up. Wait, you
sure,
work for
man,
me.
please.
You work for me. You work for me, and you're fired. I don't understand why we don't roll in there and fire somebody for not doing their job. For not doing their job.
May I ask you two things? Okay. One is it insurrection to have explosives anywhere near the Capitol? They were found. What
does insurrection mean?
Everybody
uses that term. What's that mean?
Let's take a look at the Webster's.
I would like to go to Congress and sit down with, when I used to live in Tennessee in the United States, I'd like to have rolled up to Washington and sit down with Cooper or Blackburn or Haggerty. What are you doing? What are you doing up here all day, every day?
Insurrection.
What do you do all day, every day?
Remind me to cut in insurrection.
Okay, for me. What do you do for me? You work for me.
To a degree,
you work
yeah.
For me. Mm-hmm. Yes.
So, well, actually, right now, no, they don't, because you're in another country. So that doesn't really work anymore.
Well, I understand that, but when I was there, they work for you.
Well, we can try to vote them out.
They're not doing anything for you.
Well,
they work for my brother. They work for your sister. They work for you. And they're not doing anything. They're sitting on their ass.
So the second part of my question was, do you know the American government system, the parliament system, or whatever system that we have in there right now, a democratic republic, and how convoluted it is to get anything done?
Why?
Because that's what our forefathers imagined.
I don't know the system. You have to do this first and this second and this third and this fourth. How did it get to be so bogged down that you have to do all of that?
It's that way by design.
Everybody doesn't have to agree. That's not ever going to happen. We know that's not ever going to happen, that everybody agrees.
No, we have a vote, and normally it comes down to a majority. Depending on what it is about, depends on how big of a majority it needs to be passed through.
People have got to get their head out of the sand, and 2022 comes around. They got to get their head out of the sand because we got to change this.
Well,
you've got to change America. You've got to change America.
What would you like for us to change America to, Mr. Ecuadorian?
I don't live there. So is your $3 a gallon working for you? Is your going 8 places to find gasoline working for you?
It is.
Is working at home? That's working for you?
Oh my God, that is so much.
Is getting the vaccine working for you? It doesn't change anything. When you go out, you still got to wear a mask. Is any of that stuff ever changing for you?
According to the CDC, no, I don't. I don't have to wear a mask. So if somebody if somebody's uppity about it, then I can say, here's the CDC guidelines. And if they ask me to leave, I have no qualms, like we said earlier, about leaving because of that. Because this is America. You can technically say no and refuse right to service for any reason. And that's just how it is, right?
You're exactly right. Okay,
so
this leads us into another topic.
Okay.
This is my question. Why can states not continue on with a project and finish it? Is federal money that important that they can't finish a project themselves? Now, with that being said, my examples would be the Keystone Pipeline, the border wall. Now they told us, and if it's on the internet, it's got to be true. They told us that all the materials and everything was already paid for, and it was all laid out. It just need to be assembled. So
Okay.
why can't the border crossing? Why can't states stop people from crossing the borders? Why can't they finish the wall? It's already been paid for. Why can't states? Texas is a big ass state.
Yeah, it is.
Can't they finish whatever was started? Why can't the people with the pipeline? They saw how the hacking of the Colonial Pipeline paralyzed the East Coast. Why would they not continue to work on the Keystone? The states that it's going through say, we'll finish this through our state.
Well,
Just because Slow Joe says, well, you can't do that anymore.
Come on, man.
Hey, how about the big middle finger, Joe? It's our state. We're governing as a state. So why can't they finish that? Okay, I'll let you go.
okay. So we have a lot of things in what you just said. So let's look at this. And I kind of had a talking point here of if it's government funded and they stop the funds, okay, well, that's one thing. The state may not have the funds to continue on with that. They just can't randomly get funds, or I'm assuming pass out the hats or the collection plate saying, hey, can you pay us more money for this? Especially if people don't agree with it. Okay.
Okay, if you're giving me money for the unemployment spiff, you're giving me extra money, the government, and all these places are opting out of that. Go ahead and keep giving me that money, and I'll reallocate it to another project.
If the
Happens all the
citizens,
time.
it may, yeah, very well may.
Happens all the time. Yeah.
It could.
I'll
So
reallocate it to building roads or bridges or the pipeline or the wall or whatever. Since
Maybe.
I don't want to pay people to, hey, go back to work, get off your ass and go back to work, and we'll pay you to go back to work. To finish the wall and to finish the pipeline.
make it manual labor. Let me ask you this. The Keystone Pipeline. For one, I don't know what's so special about it. Anywho, the point being is this. Does it just go through one state?
No, it comes out of Canada and goes through several states, but it keeps us energy independent.
Okay.
It helps keep us energy independent.
Cool. We made a point earlier, or you did, to say it is on, it can be up to the state. All right. Well, let's say it
Okay.
goes through 6 states.
No, I'm asking the question why they can't. I don't know why they can't. I'm just
No.
asking the
I
question.
understand. So let me put this into whatever small context my peanut brain can offer you here. Let's look at it like this. It goes through, let's say 5 states. Let's make it smaller, right? Even if it just went through 2, but let's say 5. Okay, let's say that one of these states, or even 2, maybe 3, aren't necessarily entirely energy dependent, but they ain't slacking and they don't care. But they definitely don't agree with the pipeline. Why should other states complete something if they don't have a federal mandate to say, okay, everybody else has to do their part too? Because it's just like if, you're going to jump off the proverbial bridge and everyone says they're going to get a mustache and one person backs out. Well, now we all have mustaches. So everyone did, okay, I want this pipeline, this state says no. And then you have 2 sections of pipeline. You just wasted millions of dollars, presumably, on a pipeline that just ain't going to work because you don't have the support of everybody. It's not a group hug in that instance. So there would be no way you would get me, if I was running a state, to say, sure, we'll finish that up for you. But is the Tom state going to do his thing? If I don't get it in writing that you 100% on your state side is going to do it, you're going to get the big middle finger, because there's no point in me wasting my money to make the United States more energy independent if I don't have backing from everybody else. That doesn't make any fiscal sense. It just doesn't. And I mean, you can try to argue it, but I just don't get it.
I'm just asking the question. I just wondered. The basically it was the border wall when they said all the materials are there, and they said stop building it. All the stuff's there. Why would you stop?
Well, how do we know
Somehow
it's not mostly complete?
finish it off. Well, it was mostly complete, and they only had a little bit further to go, and they had all the materials there, and everything was set up and ready to go, and they said stop working on it, and it's like, wait a minute. But
So what if what if they did this?
and that
Like,
so
well, what if we said, okay, we're going to leave that part of the wall open, and then presumably set a trap, right? If that's what you're looking to do, is catch illegal immigrants. Because I just looked it up here a second ago, and they're still building stuff like in San Diego. They're building walls out there. You know, they're actively continuing on to a degree, some amount of that work. So how do you know it's not done? Like it's not completed?
do you know why they're doing that? You know why they've resumed building?
What, in San Diego?
Yeah.
Because from what I hear, it's not good.
It's out of control.
Yeah.
It's out of control. That's why they said, the wall, maybe it wasn't such a bad idea after all. We better just kind of pick up and go on with this. And
Well, I remember
started back building it.
I remember us last time talking about, Dards don't want a whole lot of control. Well, I don't know. You're talking about the mob, saying things are out of control. I'm starting to get the inkling that you might want a little more control than I previously thought.
No, I don't want any control. I just think everything's out of control. Everything is out of control, and nobody's doing anything about it. They're just not.
So then let me ask you
They're
this.
just not. Just this, for instance, to going back to the insurrection on January the 6th, the FBI is focused on finding out who breached the Capitol. The Secret Service and FBI focused, Capitol Police focused a bunch of resources and millions of dollars to find out who breached the Capitol. What about the people that burned the cities down? What about the people that broke into businesses and set businesses on fire? What about the ones that were at the police station and got the quick dry cemented the door shut and then set the building on fire with the policeman inside? Well, you're not looking for those people.
How do you
You're not
know?
putting any resources. You're not putting any resources for those people.
How do you know?
They haven't caught any of them. Have you heard of them catching any of them?
I'm not looking for that information. I don't know. But here's the thing. I'm not worried about that, just like I'm not worried about all the other chaos that's going on, because I can't control any of it. An insurrection is an act or an instance of revolting against civil authority or an established government. So here's the thing. They may have said it's insurrection against all the riots that happened due to police brutality and whatever. So maybe it's insurrection at a lower level for all of the other rioting that's happening. But this all kind of stems back to media having a purpose other than giving you news, right? It seems as though we're having some issues where it goes back to the two wolves story we said a couple of episodes ago, right? Where the information that you're given based on the sources that you read and listen to and look up are going to shape how you feel. That's just kind of how it is. It's very sensationalized right now, where you're going to get feeds from whatever sources it might be, and it's going to have a really catchy tagline because they really want you to click on that and take a look at it, and it's all clickbaity and stuff. And then you get in there and then you read a couple more articles, but they're linked to the one that you just read. So we got to make sure that when we're asking these questions, are we getting every single side of it? Right? I mean, there's a lot going on, and not one place has all the answers, if that makes sense.
Are you scolding your father?
No, not in the slightest. No, there's no scolding there, because it's something that takes a lot of effort to be well educated or well versed in a lot of these topics. And
Yes, it does.
especially,
Takes a lot of research.
it really does. And especially
Yeah.
when we're looking at why isn't anyone doing anything? Well, they can only control their tiny little slice of existence. So,
Forever with no term limits. Forever they control their tiny little slice.
Forever. Forever. Forever.
we didn't talk about do I support term limits, because I most certainly do. I don't think you should be a career politician. I don't think it's morally, and it should be legally correct.
Is
Just
that
like
when
you
you
can't
fire
have.
them? Is that when you fire them? Is at the election booth?
That's the only time you
Or the
can.
voting booth? At the voting booth, that's when I fire them.
That, unless I think they specifically break the law, like whatever law of the state that they're in, or you can primary them, which, again, that's going to be at the voting booth, just like in California. Leads back into that. You got to primary people.
This is off topic, but I saw you shaking your arm with your watch. I put my watch on today for the first time, and I didn't care what time it was. I just thought I needed to put it on. I haven't worn it in like 2 months, so I thought maybe I'll put this on when I go down to the store and come back. And
it's a little bit loose over there.
Put it on, didn't even look at it the whole time because I didn't care what time it was. And then came back, took it off, put it back in the drawer. So.
Well, I'm sure people appreciate you not worrying about what time it is if they make any plans with you.
Well, that's right. That's right. I don't have to worry about what time it is. So,
that's what retirement is, right? Is
right.
not worrying about time and all that stuff. But looking at it, something that it seems as though may be good or bad or something like that. Let me ask you this: why are border crossings a big deal to you?
They don't belong here.
Who's they?
Whoever comes across the border illegally. There's a way to do it.
Okay.
You can apply for residency. It's like me down here. I crossed the border, per se. Flew into Ecuador. Okay. I've got 90 days on a tourist visa. I have to go get the tourist visa, and I might be speaking out of turn. I don't know all the specifics, but we've got paperwork in the pipeline.
Yeah.
I have to, at the end of that 90 days, I can reapply for a tourist visa for another 90 days. And then after that 6 months, if you don't have your residency visa, and you can get mine will be an income visa. Okay, because I don't own any property. Property owners, it's called investor visa because you've invested in property.
Gotcha.
And then you have your investor visa and your income visa. That's the only really two that I know about. I'm sure there probably might be some other ones, but you have to get that visa. And to go through that process, I have to have my birth certificate, original birth certificate, and I have to get it notarized. Then I have to send it to a place that can verify that the notary is a real notary.
Exciting.
Incredible. They have to have a state background check, and then have to have it sent somewhere to make sure that it's a real background check, a federal background check, then have it sent somewhere to have it make sure that it's a real federal background check. And then with your passport, then you have to have all that translated into Spanish.
Well, there you go.
And then go down here to the ministry and, get out on your hands and knees and do whatever you do, say a prayer that they, and the income visa, you got to show proof of income. Now down here, it's like $1,000 a month is a minimum. So you're not a burden to the country. Oh, wait, a burden to the country? Never heard that in the United States.
So how are immigrants?
I have to go in there with my letter from the Social Security office showing what my Social Security is every month, along with all those other documents. and hire a lawyer to go in there with me to represent me. It's a lot. Now, if I could have just come down here willy nilly, life would be great. But it's going to cost $500 or $600,
Okay.
maybe $800 to get a,
Do you think
visa
that's
to be
necessary?
able to live here. If they feel it is, I'm.
That's not what I
trans-
asked. Do you think it's necessary? You're going to live down there. You're going to give them all of your money, basically. You're going to put money and time and effort into the people, the economy, and everything down there. Do you feel it's necessary?
I think it's a bit excessive, but I think it's necessary. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Because they want to make sure that I'm not going to be a burden to their country, or that I'm not. This is a non-extradition country.
Lucky for y'all.
Yes, very. So I didn't really realize that, or I would have probably committed. Never mind. Before I left.
Yeah, I was going to say, you are on camera. Be careful.
Yeah.
So
The
my
camera's
question,
always rolling, right?
all the time, man. It is here all the time.
Yeah,
People
all
talk
the time,
about they're going to microchip us. It's like, bitch, they already follow every word and thing you say and do. It doesn't matter. So let me ask you this then. We'll kind of piggyback on that real quick. What is a burden to the country? Any country, whatever it is.
Everyone here produces.
What does that mean?
Everyone here works. They go to work every day.
Okay.
Everyone here. There's no freebies. There's no EBT. There's no welfare. There's no stimulus check. There's no extra. The government doesn't give you anything extra. These people work every day and earn what few cents they get. The minimum wage here is $400 a month.
Okay.
$400 a month. And they're bitching in the U.S. about $15 an hour. Well, who raised all those prices? I didn't raise them up. We talked about that last week. Yeah.
I know. I remember. I said the
80s and
economy.
90s
I was going to say the economy is not on the millennials, man.
I didn't say you raised them up. I'm just saying that corporations.
Now you be careful.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I don't want you getting hurt. Yeah.
Okay.
You work every day doing something. You're either fishing and taking the fish to the market to sell to feed your family. You're doing whatever you need to do. You're building, you're constructing, you're driving a truck, you're teaching at school. Everybody down here does something every day, except me, because I'm retired. So I sit on the porch.
Oh, okay. Sure. So now are you a burden to?
Yeah, don't go there. No, because they made sure I wasn't. Because I went in there and had to show my Social Security payment that said I made more than $1,000. I had more than $1,000 a month income, so I'm not a burden to the country.
I didn't say, are you a burden to that country?
I'm not a burden to your country anymore either.
No, the
My
Social
country, the United
Security,
States.
the Social Security funds have essentially
Easy,
run
big
out.
fella. Easy, big fella. No, you're going to keep working and putting money in there for me, and I appreciate that.
There you go. So in
Thank you.
essence,
No,
is it the pot calling the kettle black in this instance because the Social Security's run out and we are now currently paying with our taxes for your?
who's got pot?
Okay, I was gonna say soon everybody here, man.
We're real close to Colombia too.
Oh my
God! They just opening up. They're opening up that border too, man.
Holy
That's right.
smokes, dude! That stuff
can't
is
imagine.
ridiculous.
I can't imagine.
Yeah, that stuff's pretty
Well,
ridiculous.
I will imagine. I mean, I'd like to imagine. I can never mind.
Yeah.
Digging a deeper hole.
So it's a scenario where one of the reasons that I brought that up and was asking what is technically a burden is because there are several immigrants, whether or not it be illegal or not. Now, understand, we were immigrants at one time, not you and myself, obviously.
Right.
But
Okay.
the Drydens who came over at luckily a pretty good time in the 1500s, does that mean that we're Americans by default because our ancestors could have been the ones who came over here and killed the indigenous people?
I don't know. I don't. I
But
haven't researched it.
well,
So.
right. So, but my point here is just to look at it. We got the long end of the stick in terms of being a part of America since its inception, right? And we had the
Right.
papers to prove it. We'd love to at Darden.com. You can find the lineage papers that shows all of our stuff. Where no, don't go to Darden.com. That's probably for a
Yes.
food business and a restaurant things.
Yeah. Search your tree.
Yeah. So you can go, ancestry.com/Darden, blah, 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 blah. So looking at that, we kind of got lucky. Now, could you imagine what your thoughts would be if you were in Honduras or if you were in Mexico having to deal with the cartels and stuff like that, and all you've heard all your life is, I can do better in America than I can currently in my own state, country, whatever. And I want to go over there. And they're paying sales tax on things. They might get cash under the table, something like that. But if we have the capability to help people in these United States, is it not our obligation to assist them?
All of them. We're being overrun right now. We're being overrun.
Overrun may be a tad dramatic, but
You think?
well, let me tell you this. When you say overrun, my thought is they're climbing over the walls, like in the zombie apocalypse movies where they're, climbing over and bunching up and, people are flinging themselves over the walls and whatnot. I don't think that's happening. Now, granted, I don't know if it is or not. But then again, I was also asked in the 8th grade whether or not I knew California existed because I had never been there. We were talking about the moon landing. We'll go into that another episode where I was a big denier of that silliness. But I told them, or they asked me, Mr. Lopez, my 8th grade science teacher, how do you know this is happening? Or how do you know California exists? I'm like, I don't, because I've never been there. I have no real evidence, right? I only have to go off what people tell me. So if our sources or our proverbial echo chambers tell us this, that, and the other, and that's all we hear all day long, that is the point of making sure that we're well versed, we do our research, and we understand and have a little bit of compassion, right? Now, granted, I am of the age where that's about to teeter out and just be like, no, we're done with this.
Right.
But for the time being, if we can, in America, one of the coolest things that it seems to be, because the American dream thing is kind of done and over with. That doesn't make a whole lot of sense. But nowadays, it seems as though the American dream appears to be, can we make life a little better or a little more fair for folks? And I'm not saying the immigrants who come over here that's fair one way or the other, because I've seen some of the videos where how they're being treated. It is not good. So is there something where if we have immigrants coming in, our process, I've heard, is terribly long and difficult. Is that the way it should be? Don't know. I'm very fortunate to never have to go through that sort of thing. But is the current process something that people celebrate once they do it because it's a long, arduous journey? 100%. Do you think that they feel better because they're no longer a burden to that particular government? No, it's because they get to become a part of something better. So it's something that we'll look at it from a lens of, instead of they're taking our jobs or they're coming over and getting WIC or getting welfare, getting EBT. It's like, let these people eat. WIC is for women and like infants and children. If we have the stuff to spare, let them have it. Because for one, we can all lose a few pounds. It's not that big a deal. Right? Let the person with 3 kids eat. That's totally fine. They want the money. They need the help. Go for it. But it is what it is. I don't know if border crossings are a huge deal. Tell us in the comments below. What do you think? Are there any topics you'd like us to talk about next time? Dad, if there's anything else that you want to go over, then we'll talk on it real quick.
Let's let them eat.
Let's let them eat.
Let's let them eat.
Well, that has been the Jaye and Thomas Podcast, Episode 4, Ecuador and Why. And if you have another topic for us, please write it down in the comments below. And thanks for stopping by, and we'll talk to you later.
Don't do me like that.